Don't search for me, cause I'm going AWOL. In my heart there's a hole, yeah. And in my head there's a demon.
Damn it. I'm still at 60. God damn it. But I am alive. So what the hell? Why am I recording? Well, I don't know. I think... Well, I wanted to like flex. I've become a well-oiled machine. Got some friends. See, some crafts, some enchants. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's happening? Oh my god! Okay. So we need to see what a well-oiled machine looks like. Are you ready? Look at this. I'm gonna get the stroke. Okay, so where was I? First you gotta get drunk. So you do this. You drink. It's a big thing. And then you drink some fortitude.
It's not ready yet.
A little bit of that. And then you drink a little bit of that. And you go. And let's go. Okay. What should we play? I think I was starting a video.
I have a very deep voice. A lot of people tell me that, actually. A lot of people tell me that. Like, a lot of people tell me I'm really devastatingly good looking, so.
His mental life is defined by people telling him things, because their reactions are all that matter to him. I'm Andrew Vandervaart, a psychiatrist and neuroscientist, reviewing the case of attention-seeking behaviors that escalated beyond the bizarre, beyond the tragic, and beyond the bounds of most of our imaginations. Any opinions expressed are my own, and viewer discretion is advised. Now let's talk about Luca Magnotta. In May 2012, a university exchange student named June Lin was tragically killed and dismembered in Montreal, Canada. The discovery started with Lin's dismembered body parts having been sent to elementary schools and the offices of federal political parties. A janitor then found a torso in a suitcase outside an apartment building in Montreal, and a subsequent search of the garbage revealed more remains, bloody clothes, sharp objects, and papers identifying the suspect, who had also been caught on surveillance disposing the garbage bags. However, the suspect, Luca Magnotta, was no longer in the area. A few days prior to the discovery of the body parts, Magnotta had uploaded a video to the website bestgore.com entitled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick," which showed Magnotta performing unspeakable acts to his victim and the victim's body. And then hours after the upload, Magnotta had left Canada for Paris. Magnotta was apprehended in June 2012 in a Berlin internet cafe where he was actually reading news stories about himself. Now, the arguments at trial were not about whether Luca Magnotta had committed the murder. All sides agreed he had, but rather about his mental state at the time of the crime. The defense called witnesses to report on Magnotta's having received the diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia as a teenager, and one expert testifying that Magnotta presently met criteria for schizophrenia as well as histrionic personality disorder, that being Dr. Watts for the defense, Allard and Barth being prior psychiatrists having diagnosed the young Magnotta. The Crown, i.e. prosecution, presented the argument that Magnotta's use of illegal drugs during his teenage years had accounted for symptoms mimicking schizophrenia, and called a witness, Dr. Paris from Jewish General Hospital, who had evaluated Magnotta prior to the murders and had diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder and not schizophrenia. And the prosecution's primary expert witness, Dr. Chamberlain, suggested that Magnotta actually showed signs of antisocial, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorders, with his actions at the time of the murder best explained by histrionic personality disorder. Now, before we go into more detail about what that means, let's consider what we know about Luca Magnotta.
Hi, my name is Luca.
The first thing is that Luca Magnotta was not his birth name. He was born Eric Clinton Kirk Newman on July 24, 1982, in the Scarborough district of Toronto, Ontario. He was the eldest of 3 siblings. Now, Luca would describe his mother as excessively focused on cleanliness to the extent of locking her children outside the house and subjecting their pet rabbits to fatal cold exposure. We don't know if that part is necessarily true or not. It does seem to be the case that his father was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1994, and that his parents definitely did divorce. He was homeschooled for some time, but also did attend a secondary school in Lindsay. Most of his classmates don't really recall him at all, but those that do reported that he was awkward and prone to temper tantrums. Now, in his teenage years, he did receive that schizophrenia diagnosis, and by adulthood, he was able to receive disability allowance from that diagnosis. And I will say, given that he apparently had a family history and a first-degree relative, I can imagine that if he was presenting as a teenager with any sorts of signs and symptoms of psychosis, there may have been a temptation to reflex to the biological genetic explanation, i.e. schizophrenia, given that it is a heritable disease, though not entirely heritable. And if Luca were using drugs that actually were causing these episodic psychoses, he may not have reported that to the psychiatrist. But in retrospect, it does certainly appear to be a bit of a rush to judgment that he was receiving disability for schizophrenia, particularly knowing that he will go on to work in various ways and be seeking work in various ways. Starting in 2003, he ventured into the gay pornography industry and worked as a stripper. Then in 2005, he did manage to pose as a pinup model under the pseudonym Jimmy for Toronto's Fab magazine, but it doesn't appear that his attempts at modeling were otherwise successful. We don't know to what extent he was successful as a male escort, but we do know that in March 2007, he would file for bankruptcy with $17,000 in debts. It was in 2006 that he made the decision to change his name to Luca Rocco Magnotta, and would at least since that time insist that he was some mix of Russian and Italian, seemingly trying to grasp at some sense of being more exotic than his ethnicity was, or something. Or perhaps just thought this was a catchier name. Now, starting in 2007, we start seeing desperate attempts to appear on television. The first was an unsuccessful audition for Alt TV's reality series Cover Guy, a show where male models would compete for a cash prize and a magazine cover shoot.
Hi, my name is Luca. Magnotta is my last name, Magnotta.
Hi Luca, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Cover Guy. So
Thank
right
you.
away, you know this is underwear competition. I'm gonna ask you to this row to cut the shirt right away.
All right, definitely.
John, how come like his voice is lower, yours is lower?
I have a very deep voice. A lot of people tell me that actually.
So how do you get
be
your
on the-
voice so deep?
How do I get my voice so deep? Practice makes perfect, right?
You got kind of a Ryan Philippe vibe going on.
A lot of people tell me that, like, they remind me of, like, 54, that movie, you know?
Yeah, he happens to be one of my favorites too.
Oh, really?
I think you look good. I think that your
So just in the first 3 questions or so, we have at least 2 instances of him saying, a lot of people tell me something. So the first is, yeah, a lot of people tell me I have a deep voice. And the second is when someone says he looks like Ryan Philippe. I don't know who that is, but he says, yeah, a lot of people tell me that actually. So if we pull up the criteria, the DSM criteria for histrionic personality disorder, 5 of which you have to meet to get the diagnosis. And the idea that a lot of people tell me something is in his style of speech. It doesn't necessarily get at any one of these, but it gets at the thought pattern that I think underlies a lot of these. The need for attention that leads to being seductive or provocative, and the utter and unrelenting focus on how other people are seeing you on the sort of stage of your life. That you're constantly doing this sort of theatrical drama in your life because what you need is for people to be paying attention to you, to be the center of attention. Do whatever you have to do to be the center of attention. And so the cognition that underlies this is actually itself entirely focused on what other people are saying to me. And so it's notable that that's where his mind immediately goes. A lot of people tell me that. Yeah, a lot of people tell me that, because that's what matters to him. It's like his mental life is defined by people telling him things because their reactions are all that matter to him. And of course, there's a sort of self-aggrandizing in terms of the things that people tell him, according to him, are always going to be the sort of positive things. Those are the things he's going to be advertising here as he's auditioning. A lot of people tell me that I look great or that my voice is so deep. But the fact is, what he cares about is what other people are saying. And cares doesn't even do it justice. It's like the only thing he can register is what other people are saying.
Boys, a lot of people tell me that actually.
So how do you get
be
your
on the-
voice so deep?
How do I get my voice so deep? Practice makes perfect, right?
you got kind of a Ryan Philippe vibe going on.
A lot of people tell me that, like, they remind me of, like, 54, that movie, you know?
Yeah, he happens to be one of my favorites too.
Oh, really?
I think you look good. I think that your body is a little bit slim.
I used to be really overweight, to be honest. I used to be really overweight. I lost, like, weight.
Really, how did you do that?
I just, like, got up every morning at, like, 4 o'clock and, like, ran constantly. And people would tell me, oh, stop running. And I just kept doing it, basically.
What's your idea of overweight?
People would tell him, stop running. I don't know if people really told him that or not, but again, it's people are telling me these things. And what can we say about his facial expressions? They're very performative, right? It seems like it's constantly practiced, and he's aware of every little facial movement.
I just, like, got up every morning at, like, 4 o'clock and, like, ran constantly. And people would tell me, oh, stop running. And I just kept doing it, basically.
What's your idea of overweight?
Oh, God, I was a lot of overweight, actually.
Oh, really?
So, like, you know.
He's quite vague too. Look at this. Has a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacking in detail. And what is his answer to how overweight were you?
Kept doing it, basically.
What's your idea of overweight?
Oh, God, I was a lot of overweight, actually.
Oh, really?
So, like, you know.
I was a lot overweight. Very, very vague and impressionistic.
So your hair color, what does that happen?
No, actually, I just got to highlight it, change things up a bit, yeah.
All right, little bit greeny. I know that when you go swimming a lot, I notice some blondes tend to go in the chlorinated water. A little bit on the greeny yellow side.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
That.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
look a little bit healthier.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a little
Shiny.
bit dried out.
That happens sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think he looks good. I think he has a chance. I'm going to give him a yes.
Thank you.
I think this competition, you got to be a little bit built up, you know? Like, I think
I have no problem gaining weight. Like, I can gain weight if I need to gain weight.
I'm actually looking more muscle definition. I think you do have a very nice lean.
That could happen really quickly. I can gain.
Okay, I mean,
weight really quickly.
just,
I'm gonna say potentially, I think you do have potential, but I'm gonna ask you to come back next year. To this conversation
Okay.
with me. All right.
All right. There's a few.
So the first judge said yes. The second judge says no because you're too thin. Of course, Luca is desperately trying to say, I can gain weight. I can do whatever you want. I can be whatever you want me to be. I just need to be on TV. And then the third one is ultimately going to say,
Luca, I'm surprised to see how you look, because I think you look better in person in front of me than you look in your modeling portfolio.
Okay.
I think your photos are overexposed and blown out. And
All right.
Boost your bone structure, and I think you have some interesting bone structure.
David, I think those photos look good. I do. I think that they look very good.
I think they look hot.
That's what attracted to. I think he looks better in the photo.
A lot of people tell me I'm really devastatingly good looking, so.
I mean, a picture like that is kind of what sold it.
Yeah, but I think
he talks over them a lot, for one thing. He just interrupts a lot because he needs to be the one on stage, right? He needs to be the center of attention. So interrupting people, if it's necessary to keep the spotlight on him, of course he's going to do that. But then we also get, of course, a lot of people tell me something. In this case, a lot of people tell me I'm ridiculously
A lot of people
good.
tell me I'm really devastatingly good looking, so.
I mean, a picture like that is kind of.
So here's a question. Isn't this narcissistic? And I would say that there are narcissistic features here, certainly, but you have to think about which one has explanatory power. So are the narcissistic features like everybody tells me I'm devastatingly good looking, having this sort of inflated sense of self and his appearance, is that the lens through which he's seeing the world? I would say that is less so than the lens of everybody needs to look at me, everybody look at me, everybody look at me, right? So narcissism is driven by the need for adulation specifically, but not the need for attention specifically. So which one is the most sacred thing? Is it getting sort of social esteem, or is it purely getting attention, eyes on me? And I think his focus on appearance is more so about eyes on me, as is his desperation to be on this reality show.
to in your personal life, and I know that he's very your type.
Well, everyone has their personal point of view, like who they like and who they don't like, basically.
I just don't think he's beefy enough for cover guy. I don't think you have
Not
enough
beefy
for
enough.
yet.
I definitely can gain weight.
Yeah, I know you say you can gain weight.
But you don't think I can.
How much weight can you gain in 2 weeks?
I can gain muscle. Everybody can do it. I can gain muscle. I can work out. I'm very determined, and every goal that I put my mind to, I surpass.
So this is desperation.
This is for everybody, and I think that he definitely deserves a chance.
I agree with Jim. I think a lot of the
Thank you,
body types are important, but personally, for me on this one,
I was in Italy, and they told me basically they don't want like really muscular type guys. They wanted like thinner guys, and that's why I said, you know what, I'm gonna be thin.
So then his reason for why he might be more thin than they want him here at Cover Guy is because when he was in Italy, they were telling him they wanted really wayfish models, I guess, which is a semi-believable kind of story, right? That, you can't imagine that there are different beauty standards in the kind of Italian fashion world than there are for Cover Guy magazine, which, based on this silhouette behind him, appears to be more of a muscle-bound, appears to have more of a muscle-bound focus. But the idea that anyone was telling Luca Magnotta when he was in Italy that he needed to be thinner and that's why he lost weight, I think that's entirely made up for the purposes of trying to come up with a cover story here. There's no evidence that he ever did any modeling in Italy. So that's either a delusion of grandeur or a lie. I would lean towards the latter. I think that a lot of what he's doing here is about attempts at manipulation and focus on being exactly who they want him to be, all in service of being the center of attention and the increased attention that would come with being on that show and being in the magazines. So being a contestant on Cover Guy did not work out for Luca Magnotta. So then in 2008, he had another idea, which was, hey, since I'm getting all these cosmetic surgeries, which he was getting, I could be on one of these shows where they show people getting plastic surgery operations. And so he auditioned for the Slice Network's Plastic Makes Perfect.
Or anything? Or?
Nope. Nope. So just talk to me. And start off with just giving me your name and your age.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right, my name is Luca Magnata, and I'm 25.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a model.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the other stuff that you do?
Yeah,
or-
definitely.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
all totally fine.
Super.
Basically, I do a lot of adult modeling, and I do adult films as well, and I'm pretty comfortable in front of the camera, so I'm doing it for a while, and it's been working out pretty good for me, so.
And you do it full time?
I do. It's full-time, whether it's doing the films or doing magazines or internet shows, what have you.
So this was about 1 year after filing for bankruptcy, by the way, despite also being on disability for schizophrenia.
It's all very consistent, so it's been really good for me.
That's great. How long have you been doing it?
On and off for about 2 years now. You know, I travel, and then I come back to Toronto and do it, then go to Montreal and do it, go to LA, so whatever, right?
Yeah, where are the...
So he wasn't going to LA, right, or going anywhere. He was having very little success. But why is he lying about this? There's some amount of ego delusion, probably, that he does believe that he is a bigger deal than he really is. But I think the greater component is not a clinical delusion at all. It's purely a means to an end of getting on this TV show. So this is the Slice Network. I've never heard of that. It's a show called Plastic Makes Perfect, where he's not going to be a hero, right? Presumably he's going to be, at best, just a patient on this show, but it's still attention. And so in this interaction, he wants to convince this person that he needs to be on the show. And if that means, hey, I've been around cameras, he has been around cameras, at least in the adult film industry to some extent, but also I've been modeling and I've been to LA. So basically I'm like a Hollywood kind of guy, but it's all in service of this goal he has of attention. Because, you know, the argument could be made, if he has grandiose delusions, maybe he has a type of schizophrenia with a kind of grandiose predominant delusion. But that is not what this appears to me. This appears to me to be trying to convince a person of a grandiose idea about himself. So people with schizophrenia will often practice something called double bookkeeping, which essentially means that they've learned that people in the world are going to be critical or otherwise not receive well any of the delusion kind of content. Of course, the patient still believes the delusions they might have, like grandiose delusions about being, say, a god. But what they'll tend to do is, other than when they're in an outright disorganized psychotic break, if they have these beliefs, they'll keep that part in their head and come up with explanations that they think are more likely to fit with the person they're talking to. And so they're keeping track of two books. That's the idea of double bookkeeping, is in their own head they know, okay, I'm a god and that's why I'm able to do these things, but I'll tell this person, for their sake, I'll say it's just because of some other factor, like, and they might pick something random, but something that they would hope would explain in the book that is the other person's. So they're trying to maintain the reality that they've sort of been conditioned to maintain with their conversational partner, and then they'll maintain the delusional reality internally. What he's doing is single bookkeeping, right? The only book he cares about is the external person. He wants them to believe these things because he wants to be on this show and be behind the camera and have an audience.
Where the paychecks come from?
Definitely.
So what is the surgery you're thinking about having done, or the procedure?
Well, it's going to be at the back of my head. I've had two done already.
Can you tell me what it is you're having done?
It's a hair transplant. And basically, do you want me to just go into the bit about?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the procedure, yeah.
Okay, so basically, back of my head here is going to be frozen. I'm awake through the entire procedure, and there's like no, what do you call that?
Anesthetic?
There's no, like, you don't get put under to sleep.
Right.
So basically, they cut open the back of my head.
So for one thing there, he doesn't actually hear what she even says. She's correct. She says anesthetic. He's like, they put you to sleep, because right now he's just performing. He's being a one-way street, so he's not taking in any inputs. But the other thing is, you can get a sense from this that he believes that other people are interested in the grotesque as well, because he sort of learned that grotesque things get attention, for better or worse, right? And so he's going to actually try to play up how grotesque this surgery is, because he assumes that's what this show wants to see. So he'll try to really play up the cutting and the blood, and I'm going to be awake. It's going to be fascinating. People are going to be loving it, and they're all going to be watching me. So you want that, right? Because I know I want that.
Head, and they take a strip of flesh off, and they cut it off, and they take it to the side, and nurses work on it for a few hours by taking each individual hair out of the graft. And then they sew the back of my head up, and that takes about an hour.
So they pull the skin down? Or
Yeah, they pull it down and tighten it and sew it back up. Then while the nurses are working on taking the hairs out, the doctor puts me back, and he tries to decide where exactly all of them are going to be needing to be placed, so it looks very natural.
Okay.
And as you can tell here in the front of my head, the hair is grown in pretty nice, because I used to be receding, so it's grown in. And so basically they take all of the individual hairs, and one by one they put it and transplant it into my scalp. And
Wherever they feel it needs to be.
yeah, definitely. So it's all filled in, and there's no, I guess basically at the back of my head here, it's I cover it well with my hair, but it's going not bald, but I'm in denial here. You know what I mean? I guess.
So that part where he actually broke. He broke his act a little bit, because the embarrassment of having to admit that he was going bald came through. And that's actually the first time we've seen any kind of lines in his face. And I just mean lines like affect lines, like smile lines, right? Because prior to this, he's so aware of his facial expressions that he only talks in a way that wouldn't show any lines, wouldn't show anything else. And that's why I think we don't actually see the kind of over-emotionality that would often be associated with histrionic personality disorder, is because in his case, the vanity component of it, the using his appearance to get attention component of it, won't let him almost ever do anything that would show smile lines until there's this moment where he can't help himself, because he broke character thinking about being bald or having to say he was bald.
I guess basically at the back of my head here, it's I cover it well with my hair, but it's going not bald, but I'm in denial here. You know what I mean?
He still tries to control it a little bit, and maybe some of that, I don't know if he's already getting Botox or things like that. Some of it may just be that it's harder for him to move his face, but to me it looks more intentional than it does just an inability. It looks like a very careful way of holding himself and restricting himself when it comes to facial expressions.
I guess you can say it is kind of going bald then, but I just, every time I look in the mirror, it seems to be getting worse, so I want to like completely.
Especially because we did see
it,
the expression in the smile lines, and now they're gone.
Because I can't have my hair looking like I'm 50 years old when I'm 25, right? So I want it to look pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've had cosmetic surgeries done in the past, so I'm pretty used to them. And
What have you had done in the past?
I've had my eyes done here, because I used to have dark circles underneath my eyes, and it was completely making me look like I was tired all the time.
What we do here is a lot of superlative words. So he'll use the word, "It was completely making me look like I was tired all the time." And you'll hear a lot of these, I think. I think I've been hearing a lot of completely or definitely or absolutely. And that, I would say, goes to exaggerated expression of emotion. And so you can see that there's this kind of paradox within HPD criteria, a shallow expression of emotions or an exaggerated expression. And I think while it's difficult to conceive, actually, expressions of emotion can be both exaggerated and shallow at the same time. It's just very hard to explain, because you have to rely on your own kind of instinctual you have to rely on kind of your own instinctual sense of whether an expression is shallow while at the same time being exaggerated. But in his case, I'm saying he limits the exaggerated expressions because he needs to keep his face free of lines, right? But he does do all of this theatricality, self-dramatization, and he uses these exaggerated adverbs, like everything is the most, or the most extremely, or absolutely. We'll see if we hear more of them. I thought I was hearing more, and that one in particular that was completely making me look like I was tired all the time seemed like such an odd use of completely that I had to point it out.
Dark circles underneath my eyes, and it was completely making me look like I was tired all the time. I've had my nose done. I've had 2 hair transplants, like I said before. And I'm planning on doing muscle implants in my pecs and my arms. So that just remains to be seen.
I guess he has to do that because of what they told him on the Cover Guy reality show. He decided he can just get it done.
Because that's pretty...
Do you think you're a bit of an addict?
Yeah, my name's Luca, and I'm a cosmetic surgery addict. But yeah, I would say to be out...
See, that time he laughed, but he didn't... It was a performative laugh. That was very intentional. He didn't show any smile lines.
Luca, and I'm a cosmetic surgery addict. But yeah, I would say to be blatantly honest, I think that I am, because just the profession that I'm in, it makes me more aware of my looks.
Should we play the song for him, Josephine?
Oh, yes, please. Play that tune.
Here, I think he's trying to read, is this what you want me to say? Because, of course, that's all that matters to him. All that matters is what the other person thinks. And in this case, someone with power to put him on television, it really matters what this producer thinks. So his guess is that it's more interesting if I'm a plastic surgery addict. But he is a little bit uncertain, it looks like to me. Is that the right answer? Or do you want people on the show that aren't? But he's going with, yeah, I think I am.
Because I'm constantly seeing other people, that are extremely good looking, how they look, and I'm comparing myself. So I need to step up my game, basically, and that's why I'm having all these procedures done.
Do you feel it's more a modeling thing or more of an adult entertainment thing? Do you feel the pressure?
I would say it has to be both, because both industries are so competitive that they both need you to look your best all the time, and there's just a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety in both industries. So I have to say that both, definitely.
There's pressure to look good.
There is so much pressure to look good because you're on set with these other people, and you see how they look, and then after all your little flaws start coming out, and you're like, oh well, this person looks that way, and they have this sort of body, this sort of face and hair, and now I compare myself to this person, so he has like fuller hair, so now I want fuller hair. He has a better nose, so I want a better nose. And
you look like you're a handsome guy. I can't imagine you weren't that handsome before.
You know what? A lot of people tell me that. They say, you know what? Oh, you don't need it, but...
A lot of people tell him that.
Before, I was good looking, but it was starting to fade, and I was starting to get very self-conscious with that, and I could not deal with having my looks go, because before it was receding, like I was saying, and my nose was a bit different, and my, now I just take very good care of myself by going to the gym all the time, working out, eating properly. So I don't want to, it would kind of defeat the purpose if I was doing all of that exercise and then, looking kind of ugly. Because when I'm in the...
He's kind of all over the place right now, I think, because he's trying to make sure he's saying the right thing. He doesn't want to disqualify himself by having any kind of pathological need for plastic surgery. So he's throwing in now I'm healthy and I eat right. And it's the pressure of my job that makes me think about how others look and then compare myself to them. But at the same time, he also wants to be like, and I'm a character and I'm really into plastic surgery.
When I'm in the chair and they're doing say my hair or something, or they can say, oh well, we better. It really gets to me because they say to me, we better cut it a bit longer at the back because we can see that it's starting to, and I'm like, don't even tell me that. Do not even tell me that it's starting to get thin at the back, because I don't want to hear, I'm in denial, like I said, about it. So I'm like, okay, I've been hearing it so much lately, and the other the actresses who I work with, they're like, yeah, it's kind of, they like pointed out, I'm like.
And of course, what bothers him about it, it's not that he notices it, it's when other people tell him. That's when it's really bad. When other people are telling me this, that's bad. I don't think he really cares about his own thoughts if he has them. His world is defined by what other people say about him, and particularly the way that they view him, right? So again, it is certainly narcissistic to care about what other people think of you to a pathological degree. But what he is doing is constantly imagining the version of himself that other people see, and that image of himself is entirely dictated by what people say about him. So he's living this life seeing himself on the stage that he believes he is on in the world, and needing to always be garnering the spotlight on that stage. He is living his life seeing himself only as that performer, being only that performer, and having a self-image that's entirely created by what other people say about him. I'm sure he enjoys looking in the mirror, right? It's not just that it's not that he can only see a self-image as other people describe it to him. He is also going to look in the mirror, but then when he's looking in the mirror, he's imagining other people's reaction to how he looks. Like, the better he looks in his eyes, what he's imagining when he looks in the mirror is other people saying, oh, wow, look at you, you're so handsome, whatever it is.
You know what, that is not nice, okay? I don't want to hear it. So, but they do tell me it, and, you know, I guess I have to hear it because, you know, just reality. So
a bold admission that reality.
I have to hear it because, you know, just reality. So
how important are your looks to you?
Oh my God, if that's number one. Okay, number one is looks. Number two would have to be intelligence, and I don't know what the rest are. all I care about is number one. Basically, all I do is care about how I look by getting clothes, basically, because, you know,
I think this is both honest and a character. I think he's being honest that looks are hugely important to him, and particularly the way other people view him, view his looks. But the other part is, I'm being fun now. I think he's in I'm being fun reality TV guy mode, where he's like, oh, it's everything to me, ha ha ha. Which is, I mean, is there anything funny about this? We're almost conditioned to think if someone is laughing like this when they're talking, there must be something funny about it. But if you actually listen to the words he's saying, it's very not funny.
Oh my God, if that's number one. Okay, number one is looks. Number two would have to be intelligence, and I don't know what the rest are. all I care about is number one. Basically, all I do is care about how I look by getting clothes, basically. Because you know what, when you're going out to parties, when you're going to events, when you're going traveling everywhere, you know, you have to constantly wear something new all the time. You know, you can't keep, you know, it's a very strange industry, but not a lot of people can understand unless you're in it.
He's maybe trying to relate to her. He sees her as maybe like a fashion person, and so now he's switched to clothes. The whole time he's been talking about how much he is addicted to plastic surgery because it's a plastic surgery show, and now he veers into this whole, I really care about my clothes, and you can't wear the same thing twice, right? You can relate, right? This is a strange industry we're in, you and I.
You know, so
Do you think
I enjoy it though.
yeah. Have you always been obsessed with your looks? Like, I mean,
I have, like, seriously, people say to me all the time, even when I was a teenager, they're like, oh, you're completely vain, all you do is like stare in the mirror.
People say to me all the time, right? Anytime he is asked to comment on the factual nature of something, like, have you always been vain? His source is always going to be, what have other people told me? It's not, he can't examine himself and say, have I always been like this? Other than to say, let me scan all the things people have said to me, and then I can report back.
People say to me all the time, even when I was a teenager, they're like, oh, you're completely vain, all you do is like stare in the mirror. If you walk by a mirror, all you do is like glance and look at it, you know. when you're in a restaurant, you just like take like your spoon, and just like do a little like look in it, and you know, try to like check and see if you're okay. And
where does he looks in mirrors when he's walking by one or when he's in a restaurant and he has a spoon. So what both sound like public places, right? And that I think is relevant. He's not someone necessarily who, when he's at home and he's not planning on going anywhere, just likes looking in the mirror and admiring, you know, a body he's been working out or something like that. He's someone who needs to look in the mirror when he's out in public or going out in public because he needs to see what other people are seeing.
Industry where it's all about your looks.
it is, you know, so when you go from, you know, when you're in high school or something, and your looks, you know, they're important, but not like everything. Then you just go into an industry. Like people on their day-to-day jobs, like who are not even in this industry, they really don't have to look their best. They have to look presentable. But they don't have to like look perfect.
Have you ever heard of body dysmorphic disorder? Have you heard of that term?
I've heard of it briefly.
Briefly, yeah.
I know that it's people who look good and they think that they look completely hideous. So I don't have a whole thing.
So you think, I mean, you don't think you look hideous. You think you look good. You just want to look even better.
I think that I used to look hideous, and after that, after when I got all of my procedures done, I'm starting to look better and better. But I still feel as though I can look even more handsome, you know, if I finish my...
So body dysmorphic disorder is definitely something that plastic surgeons need to look out for and do typically, you know, evaluate for if they have a suspicion that someone is actually just developing a kind of escalating need for plastic surgeries. They will evaluate for BDD. The more typical case of that would be there's one part in particular, like the nose or the ears, that is the object of the obsession, of the dysmorphia, and that's what the person is unable to kind of relent from their self-criticism about. In his case, I'm not sure we have enough information to say whether he technically meets criteria for body dysmorphic disorder, but the sense I'm getting is that if he does kind of meet the behavioral characteristics, it's still because of what is more primarily a histrionic self-obsession, a need for attention due to his appearance, with some narcissistic features. I mean, I don't mean to keep acting like you can't have features of both. I'm just kind of making the case that I think the histrionic personality is the lens through which almost everything can be explained with this person.
A journey into getting the surgeries done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you think it'll help you, like in the adult entertainment industry? Do you think this is going to get you more work or make you more money?
I have to say that it would get me a lot more work if I do get the hair transplant done, because I noticed a difference when I didn't have it as opposed to now. Because before it was as though I noticed that the jobs were going more and more to the other people, and after I got the procedures done, I noticed that I was the one who was getting more and more of the work. So now I'm like, okay, what happens if I get more and more work done? Then that means I'm going to get more and more work, obviously. And I think that
it's a very concrete and shallow way of explaining it. All of that could have just been said with, yes, because I've noticed positive results in the past on my ability to get work. But instead it's, yes, because before I got it, I was not getting as many jobs. And then when I got it, I was getting more of the work. So that I think that when I get this done, I will be seeing more and more of the jobs.
To get the hair transplant done, because I noticed a difference when I didn't have it as opposed to now. Because before it was as though I noticed that the jobs were going more and more to the other people, and after I got the procedures done, I noticed that I was the one who was getting more and more of the work. So now I'm like, okay, what happens if I get more and more work done? Then that means I'm going to get more and more work, obviously.
I do think that might just be he just likes talking. He likes when he's talking and he's in front of the camera. And so if he can say something in way more words than are necessary, all the better, because that whole time he's the one talking. So it's great. But it was a very inefficient way of saying that.
I work out like a nut. So other guys who are getting the jobs are like getting bigger bodies. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to follow whatever they do because they're getting bigger bodies and better bodies. So that's going to make me more money.
Wait a second. Is this all just because he didn't get that Out TV reality show Cover Guy? No, I guess he's getting the hair transplant first, and that wasn't the criticism he got from the judges on Cover Guy. Getting buff is what he's going to do for Cover Guy, but he's getting the hair transplant anyways.
Bigger bodies. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to follow whatever they do because they're getting bigger bodies and better bodies. So that's going to make me more money. I have to do that, and they're getting more jobs. So I wonder why. So I look at what they're doing, and it just makes logical sense to me that I would do it too.
Yeah. So do you think that having the surgery is going to make a big change in your life?
It's going to make a drastically different change in my life, and it's just going to give me more self-esteem and like make me feel amazing about myself, because it's very important for people to have high self-esteem and to feel good about themselves. And
oof. So he's trying to come up with why it's the most important thing in the world. He knows it's very important for him to be on this reality show. So what can he say to highlight how important it is? It's going to make a drastically different change. My self-esteem. Self-esteem's good, right? People care about self-esteem. So if you want me to have self-esteem,
amazing about myself, because it's very important for people to have high self-esteem and to feel good about themselves. And if going under the knife can help somebody achieve that, then I think that it's a great thing.
Yeah.
You know. People look at it as like a magical new experience, but it's not really that different. It's not really that bad. You know, when you go under, even though I'm awake, I can still feel them cutting open my head, but it's not like you feel all the pain. You know what I mean? But you just have to stay there for like hours and hours and feel them cutting open your head and putting it in, and you can actually feel like the blood dripping down the back of your neck, and it's kind of graphic. I mean, like, gross everybody out here, but it's like seriously graphic.
Yeah. So I think that's a calculated move to, again, try to tell them that it's going to make good TV. So first he says my self-esteem, but then secondly, and it's going to be a very interesting looking procedure, actually.
Oh God. When I look in the mirror now, I just saw the little flaws just come out, and I'm just like, you know what, I can notice that. I can just, I want to fix that, I want to fix this. And
what other things, I mean, other than, like, there other stuff that you're looking to fix? Other than your hair and your pecs?
Okay, this may sound really weird, but I've seen this other guy on a cosmetic surgery show, and he had on his forehead here, he had like 2 little bumps in his skull, and they protrude out of his forehead. Like, there's 2 bumps here in my head, because my bone sticks out a little bit on my forehead. Like, there's 2 little bumps.
Yeah.
And he had his grinded down, but because he thought it looked like devil horns. And I noticed when I look in the mirror that I have the same thing too, like one here and one here. So I want it taken off my forehead. And I'm look at there, I'm like, damn, it's getting bigger and bigger on my forehead. So I want that done, and I like.
Do you see an end to the?
Other than just having a kind of bony ridge at the supraorbital ridge, as a lot of us have. See, his is less pronounced than mine, certainly, but I don't. His is less, as a lot of us have. See, his is less pronounced than mine, certainly, but I don't see the horns. Maybe you could make a case that just each supraorbital bone, like in a lot of people, comes out a little bit. But it is kind of interesting that he's seeing that as devil horns, right? You could say a lot of what he sees when he looks in the mirror is just the sort of whatever sort of self-criticism mode he needs to be in to try to make himself look better and better for getting more and more attention. And so you're sort of in critic mode when you need to make something, when you need to perfect something, it's sort of natural to go into critic mode, you could say. Writers are probably familiar with this, that they hate their story when they're editing it because they need to get into that kind of critic mode to make it better. That seems possibly like what's going on when he looks in the mirror. The only thing is this introduction of seeing devil horns. You have to wonder if there's something a little more morally conflicted that's going on when he's looking in the mirror at a certain point. Obviously, it's going to take on certain undertones of seeing himself going to the dark side, being on the dark side, perhaps some effort of his conscience. Could his conscience be trying to warn him about becoming devilish? Or is it just a kind of self-imposed splitting, that if there's parts of himself that he doesn't like, but he can't handle those parts of himself internally, he affixes them to something external. This would be like a raw object identification. So a kind of extreme splitting of some part of the self that is unacceptable. Certain properties of the object are then experienced as a foreign body in the subject and are defensively identified with. In this case would be the devil horns, when the actual object he was trying to process would be some internal experience. Anyways.
The cosmetic surgery, will you ever be perfect in your own eyes?
You know what? I don't think I know that there's so much things I'm going to do, and I don't care whether or not I have to work every single day, every hour. I'll do it and get all my cosmetic surgeries done. Maybe there might not be an end, maybe there will be an end, but I just know that I'm just going to keep doing it until I'm personally satisfied, even if anybody else says to me.
Sure. So now he's in grind mindset. He's all over the place. He's just trying out all this stuff, hoping that something sticks. He's cycling through all of these different modes and characters, just hoping that this producer likes one of them. Do you want me to be grind mindset? Do you want me to be like fun, casual, plastic surgery guy? Do you want me to be like, I need this for my job kind of guy?
My body, if I don't have my looks, then I don't have any life. My looks and my body are my life. So they don't.
So you're gonna kill me by not letting me do this? No. It's almost like he's holding them hostage. This is my life here.
Me and them have different ways of thinking, and we're constantly getting.
It's almost like he's holding himself hostage. This is my life we're talking about.
You know what? If I don't have my body, if I don't have my looks, then I don't have any life. My looks and my body are my life.
Is there anything else you want to add? Anything you don't think I asked, or anything else you want to mention?
I would just like to say, I guess, that I would be very excited to do this, and it would be a great opportunity. And I think I would be a great candidate for this position.
Yay! Yay, Luca. I'm just going to get a couple shots of your head. Can you just get off the stool and just come a little closer to me?
Just like still shots? Or if I didn't tell anybody, they wouldn't even notice.
No, it's true.
So it's right under my eyes here, I had done.
Right.
And now you can't even tell that they were puff bags. And my nose is completely straight. Because it used to be over to the side. Now it's completely perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, it's coming along amazingly well.
Right, as long as you're happy, right? It's all about you.
Definitely.
Do you want to just step back a little bit? I'm just going to get you to do a little 360.
So she says, as long as you're happy. And he says, definitely, I totally agree. Of course, with the adverbs there. The irony of this is obviously there's a vanity and a selfishness to the point to which, he believes he's the main character and that in a way everyone else in the world is just his audience. But on the other hand, all that matters to him is the audience. But of course, the problem is he's not seeing the audience as human beings that he's interacting with. He's seeing them as merely an audience in this one-man drama that is his life. What was also happening over the same time period as he was apparently reaching out to reality shows and occasionally making it to audition, is that he was creating numerous social media profiles and accounts on discussion boards to disseminate these various fabricated stories about Luka Magnotta. These sock puppet accounts would talk about Luka Magnotta as though he was a successful model and celebrity. And police investigations would ultimately reveal that he had made at least 70 Facebook pages and 20 websites using different aliases and always reporting on Luka Magnotta, often praising himself on these accounts, like one that called Luka Magnotta the new James Dean, or in some cases just try to garner controversy and attention by spreading fictitious narratives that then the real Luka Magnotta, in other words, him on a video, could then deny. So he would make these sock puppet accounts that would make rumors about Luka Magnotta, and then he would come in and say, that's totally false, right? So one example of this was a rumor that surfaced in 2007 that Magnotta had been romantically involved with Karla Homolka, a notorious Canadian murderer. And this was a rumor he would later refute in an interview with the Toronto Sun.
My modeling career is kind of going downhill, basically, these days, to be honest with you.
And it's all because of this whole rumor of you dating Karla Homolka. This is the thing that's...
The rumors destroyed my life, basically, and I've been receiving death threats. My address is posted, that's why I had to move. I want my Pomeranian back. It was taken out of my SUV. I'm about to have a nervous breakdown here. My reputation is completely ruined.
I feel as though you can see him imagining what a celebrity would be walking like and what the celebrity would be wearing when they cut away to him. So, you know, the Toronto Sun clearly asked, can we just get some shots of you walking around this place where you live? And he's
been receiving death threats. My address is posted, that's why I had to move. I want my...
trying to be natural in the least natural way possible.
That's why I had to move. I want my Pomeranian back. It was taken out of my SUV. I'm about to have a nervous breakdown here. My reputation is completely ruined. I just want everybody to set. I want to set the record straight that me and her have absolutely no connection. I go in to see casting directors. I go in to see agents. You know, they know who I am. You know, it's all over everywhere. Started being a stripper, and then basically
I go in to see casting directors, I go in to see agents, and it's all over everywhere. So on the one hand, he's got a very difficult performance here, right? Because it's obviously a performance. He's obviously trying to play the part of a celebrity who's got these awful rumors that they're having to deny and discount now, and it's made his life very difficult. That's the character he's playing. But at the same time, of course, he's very excited that it got to the Toronto Sun, at least. You know, this is, for him, this is one of the great successes of this online campaign he's been waging.
Started being a stripper, and then basically I went from there to doing adult films, and I'm not ashamed of doing the adult films. I have a problem, though, with people saying those to relatives. And now nobody wants to talk to me. I don't have anybody, basically. Whoever's doing this
almost
wants to talk to me. I don't have anybody, basically.
Almost unable to not smile.
I don't have anybody, basically. Whoever's doing that.
And so he's almost unable to hold in a smile, you can see.
People saying those to relatives. And now nobody wants to talk to me. I don't have anybody, basically.
That would be a sad thing, right? I don't have anyone to talk to. No one wants to talk to me. But it's
I don't have anybody, basically.
delighting him.
You know, please stop. You know, you're doing a lot of harm.
So that journalist from the Toronto Sun would later describe him as troubled and say that he suspected that Magnotta had fabricated the story for notoriety. But the journalist apparently believed that Magnotta posed a greater risk to himself than to others. And regarding Karla Homolka, the murderer that he was fabricating these rumors about. We do have a report from someone who briefly dated Magnotta that his obsession with fame led him to actually idolize Homolka and her accomplice Paul Bernardo as role models. One thing that's interesting to consider is the suggestibility that has been consistently observed in histrionic personality disorder, i.e. that they are easily influenced by others or circumstances, perhaps to the point of idol worship. By 2010, nothing having come to fruition from these various reality show auditions and rumors and online campaigns to make himself a celebrity, to fake it until he made it as a celebrity, he shifted to a darker form of notoriety when he posted a video to YouTube, One Boy, Two Kittens, which showed him killing 2 kittens. I don't want to actually describe what even happened in that video. The glee that I imagine him having while he is committing these psychopathic acts, because he's imagining getting a response from it, getting a reaction online. This was at a time when there were relatively mainstream shock videos coming out. There was 2 Girls, 1 Cup, which was a viral shock video, a gross out video, but not violent, at least. In his mind, where do you escalate it from there? You escalate it to acts that we would all see as evil, but in his mind are shocking, and that's all that matters. And so these videos did in fact garner a reaction, but it was a much more concerted effort than he probably imagined, because it rallied much of the internet to find this person who had killed these cats. And that is what the documentary Don't F With Cats is about. That is, I believe, still on Netflix. So you had Ryan Boyle, a former U.S. soldier, using the online name Save Kitty, who formed the Facebook group, and about 4,000 people signed up because they believed in catching this guy. They also believed Magnotta actually joined the group under an alias, and believed that Magnotta himself anonymously went on a message board frequented by the group and posted pictures from the video with the face no longer blurred. The fact that he wanted credit for it, again, just speaks volumes about his twisted psychology. How much the notoriety mattered to him because it was fame. So there was a $5,000 reward posted. The fact that it was a gateway crime was pointed out, that once somebody starts opening that door, that's when things start to get really dangerous. So in New York, he contacted a lawyer, convinced that the animal activists were closing in apparently. There weren't any arrest warrants at the time that he contacted the lawyer. In early 2011, interest was renewed with another online group, the Animal Beta Project, or AB Project, again pointing out that this could lead to something even more violent. So the police file was opened in February of 2011. And then even though the charges were out, he actually uploaded new kitten videos. And then you have an encounter with this reporter for The Sun in London. After The Sun published a story about the kitten killer, Magnotta turned up at their office to deny that he had killed a kitten. The paper had not asked him about this, and the reporter described his behavior as highly suspicious, saying, but behind the denials, it seemed he was getting some sort of bizarre pleasure out of attention. 2 days later, there were threatening emails sent to the Sun's offices, believed to be from Magnotta. Next time you hear from me, it will be in a movie I am producing that will have some humans in it. The London police say it was outside their jurisdiction. So then, as this is going on, so now there are these investigators from the AB Project. There's Toronto police having opened an investigation, and now there's a tip that he may have moved to Montreal. This is still from online sleuths systematically looking at both the pictures and videos Magnotta has been posting and using Google Street View and actually track his location. But then, as it seems the investigation might finally be closing in on Magnotta, this is when he promotes One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. So June Lin was last seen on the evening of May 24th, 2012. Apparently June Lin had recently ended a relationship and was looking for some company, but had the worst possible luck when he found Luca Magnotta. The final footage of Lin alive was captured by a surveillance camera on May 24th, showing he and Magnotta entering Magnotta's apartment building. And I don't think there's anything to be gained from going into the graphic details as to what was in the video, One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. Just reading the descriptions of the contents is an extremely disturbing thing to do, and I don't recommend it. What I do think is notable is that there are elements that indicate a definite degree of organization, which is not consistent with a psychotic episode. For one, the fact that promotional content of some sort was posted 10 days prior to the murder. There were also certain aesthetic details in the video, apparently, like the selection of background music, all of which make it seem like the sick performance that it was and not a psychosis. When the video was posted to bestgore.com, an attorney from Montana did try to alert authorities, including the Toronto Police and his local sheriff's department and the FBI, about the video on May 26th, but his concerns were initially dismissed. The video's authenticity would later be confirmed by the police, who recognized the victim as the same individual whose body parts had since been mailed to the political offices in Ottawa. So on May 29th, the Conservative Party's headquarters received a blood-stained package containing the left foot, marked with a red heart on it. A similar package with Lynn's left hand was addressed to the Liberal Party but was intercepted at a postal facility. The decomposing torso was found in the suitcase behind the apartment building in Montreal's Snowdon area by a janitor, and police investigation at the scene unearthed human remains, bloodied clothing, and items linked to the suspect. So police searched Magnotta's apartment late on May 29th, finding it nearly empty with blood on various items and a cryptic message written inside a closet. If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. I don't care. Honestly, my interpretation of this is essentially that he was trying to write something that would seem intriguing or mysterious. I don't think there's any deeper interpretation to it. I think all of this was a performance. I think he was only thinking about how it would all look, and I hate to say it, but I think he thought that would seem cool. So the Montreal Police Department would issue an arrest warrant for Magnotta, which was later escalated to a nationwide warrant and then to an Interpol worldwide search. Charges were first-degree murder, desecrating a corpse, circulating obscene content, sending obscene materials through the mail, and harassing Canadian officials. Magnotta had booked his flight from Montreal to Paris under his real name. So efforts to locate him did lead to a hotel in France where items like pornographic magazines and an air sickness bag were discovered after he had already left. Magnotta had used a counterfeit passport under the name Kirk Trammell for his hotel stay, despite not having used a pseudonym for his flight. So Magnotta was not recognized in Paris at that time and was able to travel to Berlin, Germany on a bus. On June 4th, 2012, Berlin police arrested Magnotta in an internet cafe as he was browsing news about himself. So Magnotta opted for a jury trial and pled not guilty for reason of insanity, essentially, which I believe in Canada is called diminished capacity due to mental illness. So the defense argued that Magnotta was in a psychotic state during the murder, thus not responsible for his actions, while the prosecution contended that the murder was premeditated and executed with meticulous planning. Magnotta mentioned to a psychiatrist an individual named Manny, who allegedly influenced him to commit the murder. This seemed to show clear signs of malingering, i.e. trying to fake a mental illness, particularly given that Manny seemed to be a character directly borrowed from the film Basic Instinct, which was a film that Magnotta was fascinated with. He had apparently also made his murder weapon appear just like the ice pick in Basic Instinct. He had also borrowed the last name Trammell, which he had used as his pseudonym when on the run, from the main character in the movie. Remember this. So Magnotta himself did not testify, surprisingly. It took the jury 8 days to deliberate and ultimately convict Magnotta on all counts, leading to a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 25 years and a concurrent 19-year sentence for the additional charges. You can certainly tell that Canada has a bit more lax life imprisonment policies, but Magnotta did actually try to appeal and overturn the convictions and secure a new trial, alleging errors in jury instructions, but he withdrew his appeal in 2015, and he is still incarcerated. So sometimes I try to summarize the moral of the story. In this case, certainly the warning signs are there in retrospect. One thing I hadn't mentioned was that Magnotta was first charged, his first criminal activity actually came way back in 2004, it seems. There were allegations of abuse of various sorts against a 21-year-old female with limited mental capacity. He apparently convinced her to apply for credit cards and then racked up $10,000 in unpaid bills and was charged with fraud. Police alleged that he sexually assaulted the woman and videotaped it as well, but the Crown dropped the charges before the case went to trial. So this is one of those what if the charges hadn't been dropped situations. And at sentencing, when he was convicted for the fraud charges, 4 fraud charges, the justice issued a stern warning: you have a medical problem and you need to always take medication. If you do not, your life is going to get messed up. Now, this is the kind of, in a way, optimistic advice that is appropriate oftentimes for people with schizophrenia. And I think at the time, Luka Magnotta was still carrying around this schizophrenia diagnosis that he'd gotten from his teenage years, but reportedly was not taking medications. And so this is why the judge would think, okay, this person has a disease, they need to take the medications. That probably is the issue. However, I do not think that the medications for schizophrenia would have helped with these things. And it is these things that escalated to a point of such utter toxicity that the world suffered at the hands of Luka Magnotta. And my only regret is that I gave him any amount of attention by doing this video. My hope is that it is a negative form of attention that may stop anyone out there. If you're considering going down a path towards shocking people for the sake of attention, do not equate gore with intrigue. Do not equate provocation with interest. Do not start on the first step up that stairway, for it leads to a very, very dark place. And give yourself time away from the stage on which we all perform every once in a while, because the real stuff is always happening backstage. Okay. Yeah. I got to go backstage. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm a psychiatrist and neuroscientist, about to review a case of gruesome family murder and speculate about motive and mindset, personality, and pathology. Any opinions expressed are purely my own, and viewer discretion is advised. Now let's talk about Joel Guy Jr. It's late November 2016 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Lisa Guy, the mother of Joel Guy Jr. and wife of Joel Guy Sr., had planned to work for one final week, starting the Monday after Thanksgiving, before her retirement in December. However, when that Monday came, her boss became increasingly worried when she wasn't showing up to work, nor responding to multiple attempts to contact her. Lisa Guy had always been a conscientious worker in her role as an HR accounts payable administrator, so the idea that she would blow off her last week of work was highly uncharacteristic. And even more so was the notion that she wouldn't be calling in or even responding to text or calls. So law enforcement was called to do a welfare check at the Guy household in Knoxville. Knox County officers Stephen Ballard and Jeremy McCord arrived at the house on Golden View Lane. There was a for sale sign out front, but no real estate lock on the front door. And there were other strange things. Through the window on the front door, they could see bags of groceries that included perishable items like ice cream and meats. They went around the back of the house and saw that on the back door, the doorknob had actually been removed, leaving just a hole, and evidently that doorknob had been used to replace the doorknob on the front door. They heard a dog howling and barking from inside. There was also a strange degree of heat radiating through that opening on the back door where the doorknob should be, and a strange smell emanating from the house. Given these exigent circumstances, officers decided they needed to enter the scene. One officer used a garage door opener in one of the Guy's cars, which were present despite the apparently empty house, to open the garage. The officers could then access the house through the garage, and this is where their tour of the House of Horrors began in earnest. There was animal feces and urine stains on the carpets. Heaters were plugged in and operating at full blast at the same time as the thermostat had been cranked up to the max setting, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And the pungent aromas were now overwhelming. There was also a large covered pot cooking on the stove. On the kitchen table were the Guy's wallets and a sledgehammer. The officers also saw long guns and ammunition strewn about. Up the stairs, the scene announced itself as clearly sinister. At one end of the hallway was a room with an overturned exercise machine, blood spattering the walls and soaking the carpet, and unmistakably a pair of severed hands, which would be determined to be Joel Guy Sr.'s. At that end of the hallway, there were also large vats containing something called sewer line cleaner number 2. On the other end of the hallway, where the master bedroom was, there was a huge pile of clothes, but other strange objects. Technician lights, a blender, black garbage bags, plastic sheeting, which was also covering the bed. A pile of Beanie Babies was on the carpet, and there were more bottles of corrosive chemicals: muriatic acid, hydrogen peroxide, lye, bleach, and drain cleaner. And then in the bathroom, they found what prosecutors would describe as a diabolical stew of human remains.
After the limbs of these people were removed, the killer placed them separately into two 45-gallon blue Sterlite containers. The killer put Lisa's body parts in one, and he put Joel Sr.'s in the other. And then he covered them with a corrosive substance and left them there to liquefy into some sort of diabolical stew of human remains.
Seems entirely too similar to an infamous scene in the show Breaking Bad. But this was real life. The officers also found several items at the scene that I would characterize as having significant evidentiary value. In an open suitcase, there was a note with the name and an address of a Louisiana Ace Hardware store, along with a notation about sewer line cleaner. There was a backpack belonging to the murdered couple's only son, Joel Guy Jr., and in it was a notebook with several handwritten pages that might be described as shopping lists and to-do lists, if the shopping and to-dos were all in the realm of murder and body disposal. The entirely too on-the-nose title that had been scrawled on the front of that notebook was Book of Premeditation. Let's come back to the notebook later, though, because there was one more piece of evidence that would have more immediate consequences for apprehending the suspect. In a Walmart shopping bag, the officers found a receipt for medical supplies that had been purchased just 2 days earlier in the afternoon, several hours after those groceries that had been left downstairs, so a picture was emerging. Lisa Guy had returned home from shopping that Saturday, and before she could even put the perishables away, something horrible had happened. Then a few hours later, someone goes out to get medical supplies from a Walmart, and there was evidence that these were then used in an upstairs bathroom. And so thanks to the cooperation from that nearby Walmart, officers were able to review the security film and find that it was in fact Joel Guy Jr. who had been at the Walmart that afternoon with a prominent bandage on one hand as he completed the self-checkout for several personal medical supplies and then left the store. Police then realized they needed to track down Joel Guy Jr. immediately. He had evidently returned to Baton Rouge, where he was vaguely still attending Louisiana State University as maybe a part-time student, but he had gone down there to seek medical attention at the student clinic. So it seems that whatever self-treatment he had done to clean the defensive wound on his hand with some disinfectant and dermaplast spray hadn't been satisfactory, and I guess he was worried about his hand. So the FBI, the Knox County, and the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's offices collaborated to place Joel Guy Jr. under surveillance and then apprehended him on November 29th as he was getting into his car outside of his apartment. A meat grinder was incidentally discovered in his trunk. So it seems that Joel Guy Jr., having left the crime scene at his parents' house in utter shambles to prioritize the treatment of his own injury, did intend to return at some point to continue carrying out his bizarrely macabre plan of body and evidence disposal, but he had not been counting on his parents having people in their lives who might be concerned with their disappearance. And that may be because accountability was not something Joel Guy Jr. was at all familiar with. You see, in terms of an immediate motive, there is a pretty clear-cut set of circumstances leading up to this crime. In that notebook, Joel Guy Jr.'s Book of Premeditation, in addition to the shopping and to-do lists, there is a page concerned with his parents' assets. Right? So, assets, her life insurance, $500,000, possibly more with double indemnity. So, double indemnity is a policy or part of insurance policies where if someone dies through some kind of accidental circumstances, including murder, sometimes you get double the payout in that case, or even triple in some cases. So he doesn't know about that part, but he knows about double indemnity. So possibly more, he says. But $500,000, with him missing dead, I get the whole thing. All her other assets are joint, go to him if missing, unknown if he is dead. His assets, so some properties there. And he notes that there may be homeowner's insurance, but probably worthless after fire. So interesting things to be thinking about if you're just a loyal son. Interesting set of conditions he's considering when he's making notes about their assets, right? So why all of a sudden is he so concerned with their assets and where they go in the event of death or disappearance? Well, at 28 years old, Joel Jr. remained entirely dependent on his parents' finances. His food, his shelter, an apartment in Baton Rouge, and any discretionary spending was all entirely thanks to his parents. His parents, however, had long dreamt of retirement, and by the fall of 2016, Joel Sr. and Lisa had looked at their finances and decided it was time for Joel Jr. to start supporting himself. It would typically be once per year that Joel Jr. would visit his family, and he would alternate between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and in 2016, his plan had been to come for Christmas, and then for unclear reasons, he decided at the last minute to come for Thanksgiving instead. Joel Jr. was the only child that Joel Sr. and Lisa had together, but Joel Sr. had 3 daughters from a prior marriage, And Lisa had been a stepmother to those 3 girls from a young age, and they had always meshed well together. And that year, Thanksgiving was a special one because of this being the last one in their home on Golden View Lane before the parents retired and moved from Knoxville to Joel Sr.'s small hometown of Surgoinsville, Tennessee. And the youngest of Joel Jr.'s half-sisters, Michelle, came to the Thanksgiving celebration with her 2 young boys that year, and she gave an account of events that was notable for Joel Jr.'s uncharacteristic behavior. You see, she had assumed that Joel Jr. would be out of sight for much of the day, as had always been his norm, while the rest of them would hang out in different rooms, moving around the house and joking with each other and having a good time. That, quote, that Thanksgiving was completely different. The moment that I arrived, Joel Michael was talking to us. I'm not even sure Joel knew my kids' names, and so for him to talk to them was odd. So he was talking to my kids, and he was bringing them upstairs. Lisa had kept every single thing that this kid, Joel Jr., had, his entire everything, Beanie Babies that he collected, things you put on the shelf like science stuff, and she memorialized his entire life in boxes upstairs. They were bringing these boxes down, but it wasn't Lisa giving them the stuff away. Lisa didn't want to give it away. It was Joel Jr. giving it to my boys, which was very odd. And this is the first time he'd ever done anything like this. It may have been the first time he'd even interacted with these nephews of his, but now he's giving them his old toys. So when I hear someone is giving away possessions, my first thought would normally be, is this someone thinking of ending their lives, right? Giving away possessions is a warning sign for that. The sense that these things don't matter to me anymore. I want someone else to have them. But in this case, it's Joel Jr. giving away childhood possessions that his mother had kept. And so here I see it more as a sense in which he seems to feel he can sort of symbolically end his childhood, maybe. And maybe it's even a mild act against his mother's wishes. She didn't want to give these things away, apparently, but he decides he can dispose of his childhood identity that his mother was maybe holding on to, at least as memories. But for him, his mother's memories of him don't matter anymore. And really, I think the issue is there's this sense of glee in him doing it. In his head, he's decided he's going to carry out these murders, and he's excited about that decision. So he almost can't help being extroverted with his family and acting like the magnanimous uncle with his nephews. I think there's a real delight going on in his head that he knows he's going to do this thing and no one else knows it, but it means he can give things away and that he's just in a chipper mood, which is pretty frightening. At any rate, from there, his half-sister Michelle is on high alert during Thanksgiving after seeing this exchange between Joel Jr. and the kids. Just the fact that he's so talkative. Every time Michelle turns around, it's like he's right behind her. And he's talking, and he's spending all this time with her kids. And he seems to be monitoring her whenever she's upstairs using the restroom or anything. He always seems right behind her. And it's very off-putting. So she ends up actually going upstairs more because she says, I was pretending to do laundry and things like that, but really I was going to check on the boys because I didn't know what Joel Jr. was up to. She's clearly bewildered, can't figure out what's going on. She's basically just trying to make sure there's nothing untoward happening to her family while she is there. But they leave, her family leaves after Thanksgiving, and Joel Jr.'s plan is to stay through the weekend. So on Black Friday, he accompanies his father to go visit the new house that the parents are going to move into in Surgoinsville, and it appears to be an otherwise uneventful day. But then Saturday comes, and this is the day the murder plan is set into motion. While Joel Jr.'s mother is out buying those groceries around midday, which we know from the receipts and surveillance footage of her, it was her buying those, this is when Joel Jr. attacked his father. Joel Guy Jr. attacked and killed his father with a knife in the second floor exercise room of that house. The scene appeared to show a fight to the death, honestly. The blinds were torn, there was blood spatter all over the wall and corner, and the large Bowflex machine was overturned. The medical examiner will find that Joel Jr. stabbed his father at least 42 times. If anything, this is an underestimate given the state of the body by the time of the exam. But it also seemed in that assault with his father, Joel Jr. sustained several cuts to his hand, including a deep cut to his left thumb. Not long after, Lisa Guy arrived home, entered through the front door, and dropped the groceries on the floor of the foyer. Seemed to have then proceeded upstairs, but was attacked and killed with a knife. 9 of her ribs were severed, and the medical examiner found that she was stabbed at least 31 times. And so this is the part where listener discretion is really advised. So Joel Guy Jr. had decided that he needed to dismember his parents, right? So his father's hands were removed at the wrists, had been left on the exercise room floor. Lisa's head had been removed, carried downstairs, and placed in a pot on the stove and heated. At trial, the forensic examiner would testify that the head was not just severed, but actually broken off with force. Both victims had their arms and legs disarticulated, and their torsos were placed in a bin full of chemicals to dissolve. So in terms of his disposing of the evidence, we have these clearly described plans from his notebook, the Book of Premeditation. And it's evident that Joel Jr. had been planning this for at least weeks. It had been in the several weeks prior that he'd been procuring the murder supplies and disposal materials that had been listed on these shopping lists. He was caught on several cameras buying these supplies that he would later use to murder and try to dissolve his parents. He used cash at every transaction and self-checkout most of the time. He had bought supplies for the murder as early as November 7th. So the murders were carried out on November 26th. The first transaction we know of is November 7th, where he was purchasing several items at an Ace Hardware, including the muriatic acid and food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Then on November 18th at Home Depot, cameras recorded him buying the bleach sprayer, extension cords, and a timer. And at Academy Sports on November 19th, he was seen buying a knife. On November 21st, cameras captured him at a Knoxville Walmart buying large blue totes. So here we have one of the sort of shopping lists. Get knives, and then he wrote killing above that. He actually wrote get knives, and then specified for killing. Quiet, multiple.
Guys,
Get
thank you
carving
for
knives
watching.
to make small.
I will see you next.